by my window, the autumn leaves of red and
If once they tasted sweet of a party, if once they tasted sweet of a socialist work, they would never give in to anybody. They would get their teeth into all enemies to the last drop of blood.
Russia needs a prophet because Russia waits for a miracle from a leader. And if he does not make a miracle, he has kicked up the ass.
How can Nikita Sergeyevich be indifferent seeing such beauty? She is a real queen. The 20th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union became a big event of global value. 20th Congress blamed Stalin's personality cult, whose arbitrary and abusive authority brought huge damage to the party and to the people. Stalin's personality cult was a break to our advance.
I told him, Nikita Sergeyevich, sometimes you praise Stalin, sometimes you bitterly criticize him. He kept silent for a moment and said, in fact, I am also guilty in many respects. I said, and in what? Well, my hands are in blood too. I asked, what does that mean, hands in blood? A pause. Then he says, he summoned us, members of the political bureau. We sat down, and he showed us documents, huge lists of people who should be killed. He asked if we agreed with this. Everybody hurried to agree.
Long life to our great native, Stalin.
Stalin remained a Byzantine emperor, and it was necessary to understand why this non-Byzantine Khrushchev attacked him. Nonsense that he attacked simply because he was forced to dance and took offense. They sat at dinner day by day, 5 to 7 people. Drank, but were not drunken. Stalin had a dinner somewhere at 1 a.m. after a cinema, and they finished dinner at 6 a.m. They had a good time. Zhdanov played piano and sang obscene shashtushka. Then they danced. Stalin started a disc and offered to dance. We had 2 dancers. One was Mikoyan. He danced Lezginka under any music. Another one was Molotov, who danced something more intelligent. Stalin, as the father said, sometimes moved his legs.
Meine kleine Signorina, sie ist die schönste, die es gibt.
Due to what did he survive? You know, first, he was very far from the center.
The 1st of May, 1941, in Kiev, Nikita Sergeyevich is the secretary of the Ukraine Communist Party. Sunny celebration, Kiev.
When he arrived here, maybe he pretended to be a full Ukrainian or semi-Ukrainian one, but in general, he has no relation to Ukraine.
Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev was born on April 17, 1864, in the village of Kalanovka in Kursk province. In 1918, he joined the Russian Communist Party of Bolsheviks, studied on worker facility in Yuzovka, then in the Industrial Institute in Moscow.
All forces I shall give to the strengthening of our Bolshevik party, our great native land, our strong union.
After Stalin's death, Khrushchev and Beria were the most active persons. Beria was afraid of Stalin, and by the end of his life, he hated Stalin. As the father told, when Stalin died, he almost spat in his face. But when Stalin started to move, he kissed his hand.
Workers of Moscow, as well as all Soviet people, unanimously approved planning decisions of the Party Central Committee, approved measures accepted on liquidations of criminal acts of Beria, an enemy of the people, activity of a mean degenerate, an agent of international imperialism. Beria, Folder Timokov says, causes anger and indignation of each Soviet person.
Certainly, you see all this story. From legal point of view, it's no good at all. Certainly, he was not a spy. It is clear he was a talented gangster, unconditionally talented, and very dynamic, and extremely efficient.
Beria was a very powerful and a very effective person. By concepts of 1953, Beria was a bloody murderer. His main argument was, I shall reduce you to concentration camp dust. At all his possible reforms, Beria would finish with his concentration camps. He was a very gloomy person, very angry. I had a lot of familiar persons who faced him, whom he interrogated, whom he personally beat. And it's not true when they say he created the nuclear industry, he created this, he created that. As my father said, he was a very good organizer, but other people were engaged in business. Tupolev told, when he was in prison, Beria summoned him personally and said, you will do a diving, four-motor distant bomber. He told him, Citizen Beria, it is impossible to do this. I can make two-engined diver bombers or a four-motor distant one. He said, with a strong Georgian accent, no, I told you, you will do.
I saw him once in a life. We should go to a summer residence. Sergei and I stood on Gravansky Street. I was in 5th class, he in 10th one. A car approached. Melenkov and Beria went out, and Beria said, here is Comrade Khrushchevska. He approached, touched my head. Well, she looks exactly like Nikita, he told. Certainly, if they didn't remove him, he would bury all of them with honor, and then there would be absolutely another life.
They won him by chance, as it happened in any plot. They were afraid very much to arrest Beria in the Kremlin. They even were afraid to take him from the Kremlin until they changed security there. The father said, we could not do much, 10 or 11 persons only. All security was at Beria's disposal. If we told him anything, he would address his colonel, and that's all. But it was a little bit different, probably. Beria was not such an authority for his people. They didn't struggle for him.
They
say Beria was a reformer, but these generals knew Beria, who arrested their neighbors, other generals, etc. Beria interfered with all affairs. Beria listened to their phone calls. Certainly, when it was necessary to select between Khrushchev or Beria, they chose Khrushchev.
Malenkov and Bulganin were Khrushchev's direct partners during Beria's removal. But in some years, Nikita Sergeyevich, as a skilled governor, got rid of Malenkov and deprived Bulganin of all significant posts. Marshal Zhukov assisted him, but after a while, he also resigned.
Rada Nikitichna finished school in 1949 and left for Moscow. She lived in a service apartment on Granovsky Street. Every weekend, Makanovs took her to a summer residence. She was a friend of their senior daughter. This family was very close to Nikita Sergeevich and naturally to me once they began the career together. Malenkov, Bulganin, Khrushchev. They were good friends, the same as their families.
I know Bulganin perfectly because he worked with the father. We lived door to door on the 5th floor, and Nikolai Alexandrovich hid cognac in our kitchen. And because his son drank cognac and poured a tea there. The Minister of Defense comes, pours cognac, but there's tea.
Once I suddenly heard at home that Marja Alexeyevna Malenkova was so and so. I was indignant and said, "Yesterday you told absolutely different." Well, I did not know it, but it was a moment of separation before Malenkov's removal. We have quarreled with him.
And those who are in the sky, they suffer here and will be blissfully happy there. We will give them a rocket to fly without change.
About Zhukov, they say he was very clever, very talented person, but very cruel. He was many times dismissed and appointed. I asked, Nikita Sergeevich, why did you dismiss him when you were already at the wheel? And he answers, I don't know what he will do after. Zhukov always behaved clearly. He did not adapt neither to Stalin nor to Khrushchev. It was spoken by Nikita Sergeevich, but he considered Zhukov a very cruel man, and he said such things. Yes, we won Germans, but we lost so many people. Stalin and Zhukov also are guilty in this. And I told him that he was at the front too and could change something. He said, I am not a commander. I do not know how to betray, but I know when it is necessary to retreat, you have to retreat. When it is clear that you will be destroyed by an enemy that outnumbers you, it is necessary to leave. And there was an order to stand up to the end, and we lost by hundreds of thousands of people. It was absolutely unnecessary.
I remember one interesting conversation that we had. One time when we went walking down by the river, I saw a big black spot on his shoulder and asked about it. He said, when I worked as a mine mechanic, a layer fell and made a tattoo from the small pieces. Nobody wanted to take them out, and now it makes no sense to do it.
A well-known guest arrived to miners for a holiday. The best sign of respect to him, a bulb of miner, the same as this. Didn't Nikita Sergeevich go down in the mine with the same bulb?
Johnny is the boy for me, always knew.
The first wife was a beauty, Efrosinya Ivanovna. My father resembles her very much. She died in 1919 when he was 2 years, and they lived with Nikita Sergeevich's parents, Julia Nikitichna, and my father. Well, and then in some years Nikita Sergeevich married and was sent to Kiev. And parents were acquainted in a town named Yuzovka. She is from the western Ukraine. In the end of the Civil War, all these grounds were given to Poland, and the village became Polish one, though it was pure Ukrainian village. That's why Mom, in general, knew nothing about relatives for many, many years and didn't talk much on this theme because it was dangerous. And actually, she and I saw the grandfather, grandmother, cousins. Only in 1939, when our armies arrived there, her father allowed her to go there, and she went with 2 women, political workers who arrived to Lvov in military form with pistols. Nikita Sergeevich saw it. Are you crazy? Who dressed you up this way? Everybody is afraid of us, even without this clothes. Put on a normal clothes immediately. Mom was given a car and accompanied by security. She went to the native village after long, long years. The father warned them that this land will be given to Germans, and who wants to leave can do this. Naturally, the whole village was excited. A lieutenant came on a tank and told that these hearings are spread by spies, and it was necessary to arrest them, and so on and so on. But this all was the truth, and then all Mom's village left for Ukraine.
Of Nikita Sergeevich, there are 5 known children. The oldest son, Leonid, his sister, Yulia, his daughter, Rada, his daughter, Yelena, and son, Sergei. Leonid is my father.
At the very beginning of the war, Leonid Khrushchev, being in the rear after a wound, shot a person casually.
Разведчики подарили. Вальтер. Муху бьет с 30 метров. Так. Ну, пойдем, стрельнем. Снайперский выстрел. Обстреляй меня. Мне для смелости надо. Не надо, ребята. Ты что, испугался? Стреляй, не бойся. А я и не боюсь. Это был несчастный случай, товарищ Сталин. По молодости и глупости. Наказание, конечно, должно быть. Но все-таки это сын Хрущева, члена военного совета Сталинградского фронта.
Things are heard, which from time to time are spread around about my father, are connected to his death in 1943.
Rodion Yakovlevich Malinovsky, Southern Commander-in-Chief, a member of the Military Council, Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev. There was almost no such a family where the war didn't bring sorrow. My father was not bypassed too. He met his son Leonid on the front roads. Look into the face of this Russian guy. He loved life so much. It was their last meeting.
Мужайся, Никита Сергеевич. Похоронка. Героически погиб в бою твой сын, Леонид.
He was killed in an air fight. He was a pilot, but the place of his death was never found. And as it was accepted, he was recognized as having disappeared. After a while, when war hearings suddenly started to take place, it was said that he was not lost and either made a landing or bailed out, was in captivity, and acted as an aid to the enemy.
And my mom was arrested in a month after father's death and accused a German or Polish spy. It was a usual thing at that time. The wife of Kalinin was in prison, the wife of Molotov too. And I think this was simply a hook for Nikita Sergeevich, just in case.
Ты не хуже меня знаешь, что борьба за власть существует и при социализме.
Да какой социализм? Это в Швеции социализм, а у нас одна видимость.
Будет. Конечно. Конечно, ты прав. Не то мы построили, что замышляли в 17-м. Конечно, не то. Какой-то гибрид из высоких идей и глупых поступков. И все к этому руку приложили. И Ильич, и Сталин, и ты, и я.
И я.
The 20th Congress, in many respects, displays an internal content of Khrushchev.
Внутреннего содержания Хрущева. Его неприятие такого преступления,
his aversion to these crimes, personal aversion and desire to change and to confess.
Желание изменить и повиниться.
Как же это так? В Швеции социализм. Ты понял? Не у нас, не здесь, а у их в Швеции, Ленинградскую область. А потому что мы рядом. С перепугу это они для рабочего класса все сделали. С перепугу, чтоб как у нас не было. И без всякой революции. А у меня вот до сих пор руки по локоть в крови. Ты думаешь, это что все так? Это ж было для дела.
Никита Сергеевич верил в коммунизм.
Nikita Sergeevich trusted in communism as the best life for all people. And he said, we build paradise on the ground, but it is impossible to live in paradise surrounded by a wire.
I am an inhabitant of Kursk region, Lenin area, Dryakovsky village, Soviet named in honor of Stalin, Smirnova Julia. I have 3 children and mother. I live with the drunkard Smirnov, Alexei. What kind of person exists on the Soviet land for harm? He doesn't want to go to work anywhere, takes everything from children, drinks day and night, mocks at family. Children are already frightened to go into the house. Comrades, is such despotism made in a desert? No, it's near Kursk city. Are there party organizations? Is there a party authority in this place?
Khrushchev really was a devoted communist socialist who completely trusted in it. In my opinion, he even trusted in these absolutely unreal figures, tried to catch up or even overtake these imperialists.
A wind of new life was carried above the country. It opened a gate of the Kremlin for everybody.
They stood on a road fork. One option was to go on an old way, which Beria would go, and sooner or later to return to the same arrests. Beria, in due time, had an offer to allow the political bureau to prolong imprisonment for political prisoners. So that these people did not leave a prison at all. And Khrushchev also understood that if they would not continue this policy, these people would leave a prison, arrive to Moscow, and ask why they were put in prison. It was a suicide for the management. and the last argument at a session of the Central Committee Presidium. He suggested to tell all of this on his own behalf, but Voroshilov objected, saying that they were all involved in this. Khrushchev said all people are involved, but differently. He considered Voroshilov to be the mostly involved person. He should tell the truth to the people, and the people will solve what to do with us. If we translate it into language of a political life, we shall survive if we don't lose control over the Congress and other bodies. If they come to us and tell, confess, our political career will be finished, at last they agreed that Khrushchev would make a confidential report. Khrushchev sometimes liked to play a role. He played the fool. When the report was finished, he said, well, it's impossible to do it for only these people. We are a party. Let's read it to the members of the party. And 6 million people received access to the secret, confidentially. After the report was read to the party, he said, but we have a shift. Komsomol. It's necessary to read it to Komsomol members. Well, again, we agreed. The report was read to 18 million Komsomol members. So total 24 million people had access to the secret, the confidential report. It means it was not a secret at all at that time.
To strike crushing blows on enemies of socialism and communism, to struggle against imperialists, colonizers.
Finally, a copy was sent to the Central Committee of the Polish Party. It came into the hands of the secretary's friend, the secretary of the Central Committee. He was a Jew, and he ran the Israeli embassy. Several times he was turned out of the embassy because nobody could believe that Khrushchev's confidential report was brought to them at night. They considered this a provocation. At last, a representative of the Israeli investigation incurred risk, read through this report, and then sent it to the FBI. By this, he told Dallas, you're trying to find this report, and we have it already. We are again ahead of you. And here, only once in the history of the Cold War, Khrushchev and Elaine Dallas had common positions. Elaine Dallas published this report worldwide, and it ceased to be confidential.
Crossing continents and oceans, the leader of the Soviet government overcame tens of thousands of kilometers, and all this in celebration of friendship and peace between people. No matter where a true Marxist is, he always repeats, unity of the working class is a way to the expansion of our anti-imperialistic front.
It is pleasant to me to shake hands and greet you. I spent my childhood in the mines. My father worked in the mines. I also worked. I know the work of a miner.
I was with him on Leipzig. I almost did not see. All of us lived their own life. He took us, Lena, Sergei, and me, and we went to museums. And then he took me in a very big trip in 1960, Southeast Asia, India, Indonesia, Burma. It was really very interesting and beautiful. A presidential palace in India, and these 3-meter-high guardsmen who stood not having stirred by 6 hours at each column in each room. I was even told not to touch them because they were not statues.
I asked him once, how long 2 Germanys will exist? He said, time will come for them to be united. But now I think it could stay this way. Though already GDR experienced some difficulties and it was impossible to compare it to Germany. There was a huge difference in these two parts.
The
Berlin
Wall arose. not
не
without
без
the
участия
participation of Nikita
Никиты
Khrushchev.
Хрущева, наоборот, это
On the contrary, under his
фактически под
responsibility,
его ответственностью. Ситуация в ГДР
the
сложилась
situation in
очень
GDR
сложная,
was
потому
very
что из-за
difficult
экономического неравновесия
because of economic
двух немецких
unbalance of two
государств все
German
больше и больше
states.
народу, и в том числе
More and more
очень
people, very qualified
квалифицированных
people,
людей,
left for the
уходило
West.
на Запад.
Tango der Nacht, grüß mir Carina, meine kleine Signorina. Sie ist die schönste, die es gibt.
Были разные варианты.
Different
Вот
variants
обсуждался
were
вопрос
discussed
вначале, как-то закрыть
to close the
Западный
Western
Берлин, но
Berlin,
сделать Западный
but to
Берлин
make it a free city.
вольным городом. И это
It
как
was
раз
just
было
before the first
накануне
meeting with
первой
Kennedy.
встречи с Кеннеди.
Kennedy
Кеннеди
had
только
just become the
стал
president,
президентом,
and Khrushchev
и Хрущев,
probably
видимо,
considered
считал
him
Кеннеди
an unskilled and weak
неопытным и
president.
слабым президентом. Встреча была,
The
значит,
meeting
в
was in
Вене
Vienna in
весной
spring
1961
1961.
года. Ну, внешне для
Well, by
телезрителя она
appearance, it looked
произошла
very
очень
friendly and
дружелюбно
pleasant.
и приятно, но на самом деле была довольно
But
резкая
actually, there was enough
конфронтация
sharp confrontation
и по
on
немецкому,
both the
и по
German and
берлинскому
Berlin
вопросу.
questions,
И Хрущев тогда
and
фактически
Khrushchev really threatened Kennedy.
угрожал Кеннеди.
Do not fly to Soviet Union. Do not fly to the socialist countries. Respect the sovereignty and don't go beyond all limits. If you go beyond all limits, we'll hit. We'll teach you some good sense.
Knock of a boot in the United Nations. First, Khrushchev did not knock on a tribune in the United Nations, shouted nothing, and even spoke nothing, because he was not on a tribune, but sat on a place of the Soviet delegation, behind a lectern. There were no microphones, but there was a boot. It was a routine session, discussion of colonialism. Khrushchev went on all sessions while he was in the United Nations. He told his assistant, "We pay such big money and the hall is empty." An assistant answered, "You know lobby interviews. Khrushchev, I know this lobby. Yesterday they drank whiskey and today sleep, and we spend millions." When going, he was surrounded by journalists. One of the journalists stepped on his foot and Khrushchev lost his sandal. It was not a boot, because it was impossible to take off a boot easily for a person of his constitution. He could do it only with a special long spoon, which was not on sale, but was made for him. He lost a sandal, and people brought it to him when he was already sitting near a little table, and it was impossible to put on the sandal. So he put it before himself, maybe for fun. At this time, a delegate of the Philippines began to speak. You tell about liberation of colonial people, but firstly, you have to liberate the Soviet Union. It's a prison of people. It was a normal exchange of courtesies at the time of the Cold War. By procedure of the United Nations, you have the right to answer if you are touched, and Khrushchev lifted a hand. Ireland representative was a chairman. Khrushchev always excited the United Nations, protested, was very emotional. A chairman decided to allow Philippines delegate to finish speaking about Soviet Union, but Khrushchev did not want this and lifted two hands. Then, as one lady said, he seized his sandal, the same as he could seize an umbrella. For example, he began to wave it. No photos are present because journalists sat in a bar during this moment. As a result, he was given a word. He expressed everything that he thought about the Philippines, told that he is a toady of imperialism. And further, they argued if a Philippine was a toady or not. It is possible to write down this word in the stenogram of the United Nations. And it was the same history as with Kuzga's mother. Khrushchev threatened basically with Kuzga's mother. It was simply interesting to him how they were translated. They argued about about a toady and agreed to write it in the report not a toady but a footman, which also satisfied Khrushchev.
Being acquainted with the sights of Skyscraper City, Comrade Khrushchev was on the 102nd floor, one of the highest of them. Looking from this height, Nikita Sergeyevich said, "New York is a beautiful city, but Moscow is better."
Once Khrushchev was on a visit to Bulgaria with Malinovsky, the Minister of Defense. They walked, and Malinovsky said, "You see the coast there? There are Turkish and American rockets built right in front of us." It made a big impression upon Khrushchev. Why they can put rockets directly near us, and we cannot do the same. It pushed him to reflect on how to equal our opportunities in this plan. There were discussions in the political bureau. I don't know, maybe someone expressed doubt on the idea to put our rockets in Cuba. I was told that Mikoyan had a doubt that it could be too risky. But Khrushchev said, well, if they put their rockets near us, why can we not do the same?
Soviet Union has the mightiest weapon, but it does all possible to exclude war from a life of people. And the life has already confirmed an opportunity to prevent wars.
Direct threat of world thermonuclear war arisen in connection with the crisis of the Caribbean Sea is removed.
Cold War is a competition of two powers for domination in the world, but they understood it was impossible to dominate. We should divide their zones of influence this way. It was at Stalin, it was at Khrushchev. Stalin tried to move Soviet Union from a level of regional power to the world one. But it was impossible. He suffered defeat in the Berlin crisis. He lost in the Korean War. And Stalin began to invest in arms. From 1947 to 1953, he increased the army from 2 million people up to 5.5 million, though the country was ruined. When Khrushchev understood it, not from the first year of his authority, somewhere in 2 years, he began to be engaged in military affairs, which included two directions. The first, he said, it's necessary to agree with them, not to agree, but to look in their eyes. Can we avoid war or not? And after a meeting in summer 1955 in Geneva, he came to the conclusion, yes, we can, but we should work from a power position. And what is such a position? There was a development of fleet, strategic aircraft, rockets, and tanks. He said our economy is 3 times less than American one. If we compete with them everywhere, they would undress us. Our own militarians, as he expressed, would take off our last trousers and win us without any war. Therefore, he started to develop an ideology and started it with fleet. When Admiral Kuznetsov came with an offer to build the second part of the surface fleet in 1955 to 1965, he demanded 130 billion rubles on it. Khrushchev was a hard-fisted person, and he asked what we should receive for this money. Well, admirals always are able to explain what for, so a conversation lasted for not 1 day and even not 1 month. At least he asked Admiral Kuznetsov, Nikolai Gerasimovich, now it's 1955. The program is up to 1965.
началась война, победите американцев.
If all ships are yours and a war starts, will you win Americans? Admiral, as a fair person, said, no. Conversation was finished. Then, for 10 years, Americans will construct 3 times more ships than we do. We shall spend this money and become 3 times weaker than now, he told. We shall not build. We don't need such fleet. We'll build submarines with ballistic missiles. They will threaten America. Boats with cruise missiles will destroy ships, and we shall defend the coast. And this money we can invest in agriculture, construction of houses. And then an idea formed. What is really necessary for us? This idea generated the army reduction. Without this, maybe we would not have Khrushchevsky and would have twice less products in shops, because the army demands not only arms, but also is to be fed. And the army, as Khrushchev said, produces nothing, only marches.
Ну ты смотри, как бы партаппарат обидел, армию сократил, пенсию военным срезал, все его дурости перечислять, это же пальцев на руке не хватит.
I knew Leonid. Ilyich is very kind, a very good person. He loved women. He liked to drink. He loved hunting.
I think that Nikita Sergeyevich knew his value, and he paid for this. There was a conversation who would come further. I mentioned Brezhnev. He said, this person is an organizer of festivals.
With Nikita Sergeyevich Khrushchev, a member of the Soviet Army, military commissioner Leonid Ilyich Brezhnev.
C'est si bon de partir n'importe où, bras dessus, bras dessous, en chantant des chansons.